Okay, let's talk about compound interest. So compound interest is calculated by this formula. Very important that you know this formula. Understand that P is going to be the principal, R is the interest rate per year, N is the number of times interest is compounded per year, and T is the number of years. So example 5 says, if 4,000 is borrowed at a rate of 5.75% interest per year, compounded quarterly, find the amount due at the end of the given number of years. So for 4 years, I'm going to go ahead and put the formula here. A equals the principal times 1 plus rate over N is going to be N to the T power. So I'm looking at this and recognizing what information I need from the word problem. So I have $4,000, which is going to represent my principal. Kind of highlight stuff and color coordinate it. The 5.75 represents my rate. And then the actual N value is going to represent the value of 4 because it's compounded quarterly. So compounded quarterly is represented by N. And then the time, it tells us that our time here for question A is going to be 4 years. So let's kind of match that up. We'll do our time is in years for purple. So filling in this formula, I get A equals the principal, which is 4,000, times 1 plus the rate. We have to change this 5.75. Move the decimal over 2 spaces. So that'll give me 0.0575 over N, which we said was compounded quarterly for 4, times N, which is 4. Our time that we're using for A is also 4. So if you were to plug this in your calculator, and I would highly encourage you to do this, put it in your calculator with all of the parentheses set up. Remember to find this portion here with the fraction is alpha y equals. That'll give you that fraction. You should get the amount of $5,026.16. That will give you part A. So let's look at part B. Only thing different is that we have the year to be 8. So our N value will change to, our T value will change to 8. So we have A equals 4,000 times 1 plus 0.0575 over N, which was 4 for quarterly, times, 4 times 8. And after putting this in your calculator, you should get $6,315.58. Okay, example 6. So you buy a car for $20,000. The car depreciates at a rate of 15% annually. How much is it worth in 5 years? So let's go ahead and write out our equation. So we have A equals, I'm going to move this down. So we have A equals P times 1 plus R over N to the N times T. So information that we know and we kind of need to focus on is going to be the fact that we have 20,000 is how much our car is going to cost. So 20,000 is going to represent our P value. It tells us that the car is going to depreciate. It's a very key word here. It's going to depreciate, which means this value here for my plus sign is going to change to a minus sign. So I'm going to make that blue. It's going to change to a minus sign because it's starting to decrease and depreciate. So then I'm going to look at the rate, which is going to be 15%. If I rewrite that as a decimal, That gives me 0.15. I'll highlight this rate. Then I'm looking for the information of my time, which I'll highlight in purple, is 5 years. The last thing we need to look at is what is our actual N value. So N comes from the value being annually. So if something is changing annually, that means it's changing over each year. So it goes by yearly. So N is going to equal 1. Annually just means every year it changes. So you buy a car for $20,000. That car depreciates at 15% per year. How much is it worth in 5 years? So let's go ahead and set up this equation. So we have A equals P, which is 20,000, times, remember we have 1 minus, because we're depreciating, our rate is 0.15 over our N value, which is 1. And then we have 1 to our time, which is 5. So ultimately, you could rewrite it as A equals 20,000 times 1 minus 0.15 to the 5th power. If you put in your calculator, you will get $8,874.11. So it's going to be worth only $8,874 roughly after 5 years. Okay, so let's look at the next. Okay, the present value of a sum of money is the amount that must be invested now at a given rate or interest to produce the desired sum at a later date. So example 7 says to find the present value of $10,000 if interest is paid at a rate of 3% per year compounded semi-annually for 6 years. So we're still looking for this same setup using the same formula. A equals P times 1 plus R over N to the N times T. So pulling out some things that I kind of already know. I already know the time is going to be 6 years. I know the rate is going to be 0.03. I know that this word semi-annually, semi means 2. So semi-annually means 2 years. So N is going to equal the value of 2. Well, I really just need to figure out if I have a P and if I have an A. So when they talk about the present value, if they're looking for the present value, it's saying that the present value is our absolute amount. So present value is also saying the amount or your A of T value. So it's always going to be the amount, which means you're really looking for what the principal is here. So we don't know what our principal is, but because it says find the present value of 10,000, we know that we already have the amount of 10,000. So key thing here is present value, meaning that it deals with our A of T being given. So let's actually figure out what our principal is. So we have 10,000 equals P times 1 plus 0.03 over 2 times 2 times 6. So when we kind of simplify this one, we get 10,000 equals P times, go ahead and divide this, and I'm just going to simplify 1 plus 0.03 over 2. That gives us about 1.015. 6 times 2 gives me 12. So I can go ahead and look at this as dividing both sides by 1.015 to the 12th power. That will get P by itself, which now I have P We'll write it this way. I have 10,000 over 1.015 to the 12th power equals P. So with some math here, plug everything in your calculator with alpha y equals, so you have that fraction, and you should get the principal to be $8,363.87. So that is the principal earnings. All right, so that's everything I have for you all. Make sure you all do 4.1 homework tonight.